Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about the one, the only Zebec. I hope you guys are going to have a fantastic weekend. Wishing you all the best. I want every single one of you to succeed. So that is me sending my love to you. I don't care how you look like, what age you are, how much money you got in crypto, or anything. I wish you all the best in the world. Listen, the markets are green, all right? And we will talk about Zebec specifically, but I just want to show you an example, okay? And I really want to show this to my Zebec holders because I know a lot of you click on these videos. So you know what? I want this to be exposed to the most amount of people. I'm going to show you something like ICP, okay? ICP has pumped up pretty much over the last week from 360 all the way to almost $9. So just in this week alone, it did 142%. Now, if you go back even further, let's just say from the first, right? Take it from the first. Actually, no, wait, this would be more accurate, right? From the first to here, right? The actual, okay, because the weekly candle, I understand what happened. The weekly candle, it opened on Monday. But yeah, literally in the last 7 days, this thing went up 200%. So you would have made 3x your money if you bought anywhere, let's just say on the 30th or the 31st, right? And boom, you would have sold hypothetically at the top. Now, I'm not saying you would have sold at the top, but the point is, right, 200% surge in a week while Bitcoin has been going generally down ever since kind of the 27th, right? And we can see, right, that is the power of altcoins. That is the power of what happens when we even get a little bit money shifted into altcoins. We can see altcoins surge up a lot. We can generally see even today that altcoins are up a good amount. Render 35%. We were in the teens for so many. I mean, Flux up 86%. Flux was up 200% at one point in a single day. And you have to realize the context of this market is the fact that we're still generally down and bleeding. Okay. Bitcoin's at 103K, almost at 104, but Bitcoin dominance, right? Look, it sold off just a little bit. It sold off today, not even like practically 0.5%, a little bit more than 0.5%. And look how green it is. Okay. So what's going to happen when we start really selling off with Bitcoin dominance all the way back down to, at least in my personal opinion, the 40%, but I think we could go down to 30%. What's going to happen when we go down a 20 to 30% drop with Bitcoin dominance, with Bitcoin going up, with more liquidity in the markets, right? I just showed you so many altcoins that are just green right now, right? They're green. And this is with the smallest of smallest crumbs getting put into the markets, right? The smallest amount of liquidity, the smallest shift from Bitcoin to altcoins. Okay. So this is why altcoin season in 2026 is going to be the most exciting year for altcoins. And I do believe that is going to be when we top out 2026. Okay. And that is based off some other charts. That's based off the Bitcoin dominance, right? I do believe we should be melting off with Bitcoin dominance next year, which means cryptos like Zebec should be seeing massive green pumps over 2026. Now, that doesn't mean there won't ever be a red month. That doesn't mean there won't ever be a red week. Doesn't mean there won't be ever a red day. Okay, but what does that mean? That means consistently we should be seeing green. And I just showed you ICP, how it surged up pretty much 3x in a week span. Okay, 3x in a week span in these conditions. Okay, so what happens when all the stars align? Okay, just think about that. Listen, we will talk about the basics for Zebec, and then we are going to dive into some of the other technicals and fundamentals. We can see rank 144 out of 9,321 active cryptos. So we are losing slightly in ranking, but that's okay. That's okay. Remember, not every single day each crypto is going to pump the exact same amount. It rotates, right? Remember, money rotates in this market. Over the last week, up 13%, down 13%, and in the last day, up 5%. We can see 303 million market cap, 16.5 million volume. So generally, lots of buying opportunities over this last month, right? Lots and lots of opportunities to dollar cost average. Still not on Binance, still not on Coinbase, but that is going to be inevitable in my personal opinion. we can see when we go and look at the holders, right? The holders are consistently rising once again. We can see, the markets see a little bit of green and the bandwagon starts coming in, right? Classic, classic, classic. But, I just always need to point that out because I really don't want people making the mistakes of, leaving when the market gets a little bit red and jumping back in when it gets green, because your psychology is going to get really, really messed up. Trust me, trust me, trust me. You want to fix your psychology ASAP, because I'm telling you, it's going to be much harder to sell when you're up 5, 10, 20, 50x than it is just holding while being in drawdown. Okay. When we go and look at the technical analysis, when we go and look at the short term, right, we can see that from the 4th to pretty much the 5th, we did have a nice pump, right? We went up roughly 30% or so from these bottoms, right? 30%. And then we can see we did have a nice correction. Now, this doesn't mean necessarily 100% that, this is a bad thing, right? When we go and look at the 4-hour, we can see, what do I see right away? Well, I see this. I see some type of support instantly right over here. And in terms of lows and higher lows, we are starting to form a little bit of higher lows. We have a nice low here, and we are forming a nice low here. So what would I really want? Well, the main big thing is for us to take out this swing point. I would really like to see a close above 0.0034, somewhere at the 3.5 or 3.6, to really, really start getting the nice market shift. Now, that doesn't mean that we wouldn't come back down to something like 0.003 before we make another attempt, right? Sometimes the markets really just like going sideways and filling up every single thing they could, right? Even before the markets kind of dipped down and sold off a little bit lower, right? We had this big dip. We started to see a little bit sideways movement. We went up a little bit, right? We sold off from this zone, right? We created a lower high, right? Because we had a high, lower highs, and then boom, the market kind of let go. Once again, kind of went sideways, 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 consistently created lower highs, and then boom, here. So that's what I'm talking about, right? The market, it's not going to just go up, 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 and up unless something really changes. Look, we know with Zebec that we have the ISO 20022 coming up. And for me, there's a very, very high probability, in my personal opinion, that it will get complete. When we go and look at the daily candles, we can see we are forming some type of support, right? Boom, consistent daily candle closes kind of around the same place. And now what I would be looking for is to really break above this massive zone, because this is a very, very big zone right here. The 0.003536, this is a huge, huge zone. So we really want to see some type of breakthrough, especially that also we do have a very, very narrow trend line, right? We are pretty much kind of in this zone right here, right? So we want to break above, we want to start closing at the 3.6 to 3.5, and we want to start taking out these highs over here to really get that next level confirmation of reclaiming this zone, okay? And, that won't really happen until, like I said, in order to claim the zone, we need to start getting multiple daily candles closes above that. If we don't, right, if we start getting rejected off this, then there's a good chance that we will be coming back down to retest the 2.9, possibly even sweeping the 2.7, right? Even possibly sweeping the 2.7. Now, just because it's green in the short term, that doesn't mean in 2 weeks from now, we won't see a little bit more red. Overall, I'm still not the biggest fan of this type of market structure. It's very, very iffy, right? These last like 3 months, the way this candle is kind of holding on for dear life, I don't really like it. I would feel really, really confident if we actually just came back down here. Now, I know that's not what some people want to hear, but as someone who still has more liquidity on the side and is willing to take more risk, me looking to potentially be buying around the 0.0021 or 22, for me, I kind of want, I'm choosing myself here. I kind of want to see a little bit more drawdown. I kind of want to see the market bleed a little bit more. I know people don't like that, but I'm telling you, right? Everything is going to work out fine in my personal opinion. And I truly do believe that if we come back down here, this would be the ultimate retest. This could be like the further retest at the 1.6 to 1.8 zone, right? This is like if we see a big slam dunk. Here's the thing though with Zebec, it might be a little bit hard to get like a slam dunk like pull down, because even when the markets crashed, this thing only went down 30% or like 40%. And you might think only 40%. Well, if you compare it to other altcoins, most altcoins went down 75 to 85%. So yes, only 40%. So, I'm not going to be too stingy with the Zebec entries. If we do come down, right, 3 months is kind of looking whatever. 6 month is kind of looking whatever. Overall, though, I still expect Zebec to be blowing up in 2026. I will be making an official 2026 price prediction video in the next coming days, where I ultimately think, if I had one shot and one chance to shoot, where do I think Zebec will ultimately end up going? And yeah, that's going to be that. I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.